Some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen. Others make it happen. I'm Dave DeFore, the Department Chair for Scouting, Video, and Analytics for Sports Business Classroom. In our scouting program, our students' instruction begins with an inside look at the job of an NBA scout. From there, we jump right into live Summer League game scouting from the stands of the Thomas & Mack Center, led by experienced NBA personnel. The live game scouting is then supported and supplemented by extensive work in the video room to round out the curriculum. In our analytics component, our instructors will lead students through the process of combining analytics with hands-on scouting to filter the signal from the noise. We teach both the art and the science of scouting. In short, our staff uses their combined decades of experience to provide a week-long program that is unmatched in intensity and scope. Before completing our scouting program, students will have learned how to compile a detailed scouting report with the help of longtime NBA scout Dan Purcell. Every scouting student will leave with the skills to show their work and insight into the inner workings of an NBA front office. Do the right thing for your career by visiting sportsbusinessclassroom.com today.
All right, what's going on, everyone? I am not Aaron Washington or John Hartophilus. My name is Oliver Arruda. I'm one of the founding members of No Trade Clause. And here with me today is our scouting and draft advisor, Dan Purcell. Dan, welcome onto the show. Thank you for, joining us for our scouting journey as we immerse into the world of the NBA draft and all the joy that comes with covering it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for working with us now and moving forward, and super excited to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think you undersold yourself a little bit there, Oliver. I mean, let's talk about what it is. I mean, one of the main organizers of NTC, super talented guy, sees a lot of really good young talent evaluator. Don't forget that. I know you're not going to talk yourself up, but I will. Also SBC graduate, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
SBC graduate. So, it's coming up next month, and I think that's a big key with anybody who's listening to this. SBC has given Oliver, Aaron, all these other guys at NTC a huge opportunity to showcase their talents, and I'm happy to be able to be on these pods with you now for the next few weeks before the draft to really dig deep and share some news that broke that I found. May not hear it from anyone else, but you'll hear it from me. And then obviously some player evaluations. And this is going to be fun, man. It's going to be a nice conversation, I think, for the next 3 weeks. This is the best time of the year with the draft and free agency coming up. And obviously the draft is my favorite part of the year. And I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, we got a lot of ground to cover between now and then. So definitely stay tapped in. If you're used to listening to some of the other podcasts, reading articles, looking at the content we put out, No Trade Clause, this is going to be just another resource of part of the game that we cover. Before we really dive in, I wanted to take a brief moment to talk about what to expect from No Trade Clause moving forward. We're doing a bit of a shift in our media. Previously, we only have one podcast a week that goes between Aaron and John. We're actually expanding, so Dan and I will be covering the draft. We'll be covering all the scouting and draft coverage throughout the next few weeks. And then Anil, our cap specialist, is going to be running a salary cap specific show.
Looking forward to that, Oliver.
Dan and I typically – what was that?
He's super talented. I actually love listening to him.
Oh, Anil knows all that stuff like the back of his hand, man. I hit him up whenever I have any question, and I know he's going to do some really great work with that show, whether it's he's only diving into a team for a few minutes or whether he brings on a guest from someone on the team side to talk about their positioning. Like, I'm super excited for everything he has going on. So Dan and I are typically going to be recording on a Sunday and publishing on a Monday. Aaron and John will continue their show on Wednesdays, and then Neil will be going on Fridays. So if you're only interested in certain parts of the league, whether it be if you're a salary cap nerd, like a lot of us at NTC, then you should definitely tune into Anil's show on Friday. If you're big on NBA draft, if you're big on draft Twitter, tune into us on Mondays, and then you'll get the bird's eye view of just the NBA landscape on Wednesdays from Aaron and John. So that's what to expect on the podcast side. Dan and I are also going to be starting to put out a big board. You'll see that in a few days. So, we got a lot of things in the pipeline.
This is like super fun because not only do we get to work together, but I think that it's an opportunity really for you guys to show how talented you are. It's really awesome to see all this stuff come together. I'm really excited. I'm not saying it just because I'm on it. I mean, it's like, I think I wouldn't be doing stuff with you guys if I didn't think you guys were super talented, and you guys are, and you work your butts off. And least I can do is show up, I guess, right?
Well, we appreciate you being here. Help. Likewise, the feeling's all mutual. Your experience, your background being involved with an NBA organization, it's unparalleled to having someone who has that experience in our corner, specifically this time of year. So likewise, my man.
Let's dive in. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's get into it. So obviously everyone loves to just look at the top of the board, and that's where all the storylines tend to fall. So we would be regretful if we didn't, I guess, just at least hit on it a little bit before we dive into the real meat and potatoes of the draft. So Dan, why don't you start off? Just give us your top three, maybe provide a little detail as to why you put them where you did, whatever intel you may have, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I'll just to be transparent here, I had it was Chet Holmgren to Orlando, Jabari Smith to OKC, and then this was 2 weeks ago, and then I had Paolo Banchero going to Houston. It's changed a little bit with the information I got. I went to LA for the workouts, was able to see guys, talk to a lot of people, and for me it changed once I got back from LA, and I learned a really good piece of information that made me switch to Jabari going number 1 to Orlando. I see the fit. I see where they're going with it. I think it's about a team building thing. Is it kind of you go with Cole Anthony, you go with the way he's playing, you go with what his production was, because he's a very aggressive player and a very ball dominant player when it comes to making the offense go. So if it's a thought process of we're going to go more direct Cole Anthony than we are Jalen Suggs, because when those two play together, I don't see a great mix and match of those two. So it's almost like you have to pick one or the other to kind of go with your offense. If that, if I'm Orlando, I'm not saying it has to be either or, but I am saying you're going to have to favor a side compared to trying to 50-50 split it. I don't think that works. If you 50-50 split young guards, you need a guard. Like I love what OKC did with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, even though he obviously wasn't the number 1 pick, but I'm saying they chose a guard. They chose a guy they were going with, and they stuck with it. And he got all the reps. He got all the pushes. He could work through all the mistakes. So I think that, Orlando, I get the fit with Jabari. I think that ultimately his pick and pop game and his shooting ability is going to be way more valuable to Orlando than what Chet could bring. Now, if it was more Jalen Suggs, they felt like they were going to go more Suggs. I actually think Chet and Jalen Suggs would work extremely well together. Obviously, they played together in high school, but that's not that works with chemistry, but it doesn't always translate to the NBA because there's different defenses, different rules, and whatnot. But so far, for me, it looks like Orlando, from everything I've heard, people I've talked to, and just getting a little closer and having some more knowledge of that situation, it looks like Jabari. And I'm not mad at Orlando for taking any of the three, honestly. Orlando could take any of these three, and really it wouldn't be a bad thing for them. I don't think there's a guy who can fail per se. Chet is going to be the most likely candidate to fail. If someone has to fail, no one has to fail, obviously, just because of his lack of athleticism and his lack of strength and his future, what does his body look like over a course of an 82 game season. So that's where I'm at with Orlando. I think Jabari. OKC.
Here, before we get into OKC, I don't doubt I just have a few questions. I mean, I obviously don't doubt your intel. But in terms of the fit, does this mean that you think they're going to be moving on from Jonathan Isaac? How do you see his future with that team?
Yeah. I don't think, and no disrespect to Jonathan Isaac at all, but I don't think he's a fit there anymore. I think Jabari's a better talent. I think Jabari's a better fit in the modern NBA. I think his ceiling is higher, Jabari's. I like Jonathan Isaac. I like him, but I haven't seen him play. Like,
yeah, he's been out for 2 years.
Hasn't played. And for me, if it's me sitting in that chair or I'm in that room, I'm sitting here going, I don't know what I'm getting with him. Love the player, love what he could do, but I haven't seen him play. I have the number one pick, a guy who is maybe a franchise changer in the terms of the way he plays and who he is and what he can become. To me, I have to cut the dead weight at that point and move on from a failed experiment. And that's just what it is. You know, that's the NBA. It's if you're not good enough with the guy and you have a chance to pick a guy who's better than him, even if they may play the same position, but the guy is a better fit for the NBA and he's a better fit for your team, you think that he is, and he fits better with your wings and ball handlers and playmakers, you go with that player. I just don't think I mean, what's Jonathan Isaac's value? You know, you have to kind of look at it like on every other team in the league, what would his role be?
Yeah, I mean, you're just cutting your losses at this point, I think, with him. Yeah, I guess my other concern, and I think this is more, and this is where it gets a little more nuanced, in my opinion, on Jabari, is his game. There are a few issues I have that I think a lot of people see in his game, and that's his ability to create for himself in isolation, after using 2+ dribbles. How does he get to his spots, outside of a college offense where the system's flowing and, there are plays specifically designed for him to get to a certain spot and make a certain read and go get a bucket, go facilitate for a teammate. How's he gonna, work in isolation, get a shot, after using many dribbles? That's like my biggest concern. And it's a skill that I feel like puts him back. And this kind of gets into my personal opinions. Personally, I have Chet as like the number one, and I don't necessarily I don't have the intel that you do necessarily, but I see Chet's physical tools, his length, his mobility, just as I almost view it as just like a cop out. It's like a cheat code. Like he could be stumbling on defense. He could be getting bodied. Someone can back him down onto the block. All he has to do just put his hands up, jump a little bit, and he's gonna at least get a good contest out. So I think that is obviously paired with his offensive abilities, his unicorn-like offensive skills for someone of his size. So for me, that seems like the player who can impact the game. Not necessarily the fastest. I think that person's Paolo. I think Paolo is my leading candidate for Rookie of the Year. However, I think Chet has the ability to impact the game the most long term. And that's not to say, or I should say, it's all for whoever does draft him in the long run. I think it's that team's responsibility to put him in the best situations possible to succeed. So that does not mean, at first at least, like sticking him on the block, having him guard Joel Embiid. He needs to have space to work, and he needs to be in positions defensively to succeed. He can't afford to be for his lack of size to be exposed, or weight, I should say, however you want to call it, to be exposed by big men who, that's where they make millions of dollars, is in the paint, doing their thing. So that's my take on like the number one pick. And I guess I have Paolo too, because like I said, I believe him to be the most NBA ready. His physicality is unmatched in this draft. His isolation scoring and his creativity on offense and his playmaking. I think among the three, I think he's the best passer. and he has like some great court vision, great IQ. So yeah, what's your take on Paolo?
I love, like I said in the beginning, I think if whoever takes all three of these guys is not going to be in a bad position.
Yeah,
because
you're not
they're
wrong.
they're all different players. They're not LeBron. I don't think any of these guys are franchise guys. We're talking LeBrons, the Jimmy Butlers of the world, like the Embiids. Like, I don't see that out of these guys. When you watch, even now, if you go back and watch Kevin Garnett, you were like, this guy is just a monster. In high school, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know that I see that in this draft. So I think going back to, it could go to OKC and they go Banchero based upon what they want. But you got to remember things about OKC. Let's put this into perspective rather than just speculate on these are the great guys, right? OKC has their system of guys. They know who they want or what type of player they want, what type of person they want. And also, Sam's really good at the value of a future player, right? He understands what, if this happens, he has it all mapped out to where if this happens, this will happen. If this happens, that'll happen. And this is where we'll be at. And he does, they probably have 5-6 different scenarios, good, bad, ugly, going around saying this is what it is. I mean, they picked Giddey and nobody saw. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see Giddey coming. I was like, no, Giddey. I mean, and he played well and he did a really, really good job. It's just OKC has their system, the way they do it. They're like San Antonio light, right? They're old San Antonio light. Sam's a San Antonio guy and whatnot. But I think at 2, if you look at their team, I would think Jabari would be an amazing fit there. All three of these guys have their limitations, by the way. Banchero has issues. I don't know that he's a great passer. I don't know that he can keep a flow in an offense. There's a lot of stuff that he doesn't do that he needs to do if he wants to be Charles Barkley or somebody that's, that did everything, right? Chet, strength, body, frame, how's he going to hold up? That's his big question, right? Not his skill set and athleticism. And then Jabari, it's more or less, he's a catch and shoot guy, but the ceiling on catch and shoot bigs is super high these days. If he's a little lesser version of Dirk, I'm just throwing it out there. He's a lesser version of Dirk in the long run. I think anybody who drafts him would be really happy, right?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, so I would say so.
At 1, 2, 3, that's what you're looking at. Can he be Dirk Nowitzki? He's not Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant can take you off the dribble. Kevin Durant gets to his spot every single time, and he does it when he wants. So I want to stop the Kevin Durant.
The KD comp's got to stop.
Just because he's tall and he shoots doesn't mean he's KD. Let's just stop.
Yeah.
Stop. So
and especially sorry to cut you off with the playmakers that they already have. We mentioned Shea, Giddey, like these guys. These guys can help Jabari flourish like so much. Just get him into his shooting pockets where all he needs to do is take 2 dribbles max to get into his shot. Like they maximize his skill set, I think, more than any other. And
I don't know if he's going to be available, but I will. Yeah. If I'm Oklahoma City and at least I have a decent knowledge base of their past and what they like and what they don't like. Obviously, they're almost like an auction house, right? They try to develop and gather items and make them shiny and new based upon what they were, when they first got them, and they try to shine the antiques up and make them look good, and then hopefully they really do perform the antiques at auction, right? Yeah. And they can send it off, and it's not a knock on them. I think it's brilliant. But this is what you are doing, all of that auctioning of players, the Paul Georges of the world and Chris Pauls, and you're doing all of this long-term movement for these moments right here, top 3 picks.
Exactly.
That is why you're doing it, right? So for me, it doesn't make sense for them unless they feel like they have to get number 1 to get the guy that they feel is a franchise changer. It doesn't feel for me that they need to, 1, move out of number 2, unless it's to number 3 and they don't care who they get out of those 3 and they get an asset. Great. We'll talk about that a little later. But from a basketball standpoint, Jabari is just an amazing fit. I like Chet's fit too. Remember, Chet is a transition guy. He can bring the ball down the floor. I think the biggest difference for me between the two of them is Chet kind of needs the ball. Does that make sense? Or he's not interested. And not that he's not interested, he's not engaged. And it's
Mm-hmm.
hard for him to disengage. When he's engaged, he's almost unstoppable. The problem is he gets disengaged when he doesn't have the ball. Either he's trying to be nice or he's trying to be respectful of others playing the game. Also, at Gonzaga, they ran that high-low with Timmy. And, I'm watching him trying to feed, Timmy on the block from flash to the elbow. And I'm like, he's never going to do this in the NBA. Maybe once a game. Maybe he'll flash elbow, and maybe there'll be a big. Maybe it's a guard. Maybe it's Shea. Maybe they're playing high-low with Shea. There's a mismatch. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that happens. But the way that they played him at Gonzaga was not to his strengths. So he kind of had to make his own strengths, right? Catching the ball, catching on a miss or a made free throw or a missed free throw, turning, facing, pushing the ball down the floor, and then making decisions in transition, right? They tried to run some we call it 21 action, or pistol, everybody wants to call it. They ran that action a lot on the, tight on the sideline for him, and he got open shots. So he does more with the ball, but the thing is, Josh Giddey does the same thing. And Josh probably will have less turnovers, you know what I mean? And more and better feel for the game. I mean, Giddey's 6'8", 6'7". It's not like he's small. So for me, I just think Jabari, if he's at number 2, it's a no-brainer. I'm Oklahoma City. I'm not trying to rock the boat. I'm going to run next year with Giddey, Shea, and Jabari. That's a pretty good young team, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, and I really love your point about the fact that this is what OKC's process, like, this is it. This is why they're here. This is why they're doing it.
This is why you look at
it. Is if you look at their draft capital, which you can actually check on, no trade clause, by the way, plug.
Good plug.
You can you see just this full arsenal of stuff that they have, obviously, but it really comes down to just a numbers game. Like, all you need, you have all these first round picks, and granted, like, they can't keep all of them. They won't keep all of them, I imagine.
No.
But all you need to do is just hit on one of them. You just need to hit on one to change the complete trajectory of your team. So, like, you're here, and then like, this is what it's about. Like, this is your opportunity to do that. And I mean, we're not necessarily talking about franchise level guys, as you said, but I mean, it's your swing of, it's on the tee. Just hit it. Just go take a rip. But no, I agree with you were saying about Chet as well. I mean, it's hard. I don't recall really seeing him coming off of any actions or doing any type of off-ball movement at Gonzaga. It was really just, getting into Timmy in the high post, and then, working off of that to the best visibility, finding some backdoor cuts, finding, different wrinkles to get his opportunities off close to the rim, but also, capitalizing off transition threes. And, any team will take stuff like that. So, we can't really go wrong either way, but that's, I think, kind of where we stand, where we lie. Obviously, we have our differences, but the common thread here is just, you can't. It's going to be difficult to go wrong.
Yeah, even if they get Chet, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think Chet will learn to play with Giddey and Shea. I think that'll be the best guards he's ever played with. So he'll find that the game is a lot easier. And they might pull something out of left field, and they might go Banchero. You know what I mean? They might. I'm not saying they will. Or, and we'll get into the trade things a little later. I have a bunch of scenarios for OKC that I have that are just the options they have are off the wall.
Before we hit on that, let's dive into kind of just the rest of the lottery. Maybe we can just highlight some places within the lottery that you feel may go against consensus, something that a specific player you have your eye on at this team. I know you may also have some intel about a certain team that we'll dive into shortly here. But yeah, what are you hearing? Who do you like? Maybe someone who is being talked about a little too much, media needs to chill, or someone who is really on the rise, in your opinion?
Yeah, somebody that's on the rise, I think, is pretty obvious, is Dyson Daniels. I didn't have enough information on him in terms of I hadn't watched enough on him, so I pretty much, some people binge watch Netflix or something like that. Well, I binge watch prospects. I don't know what's wrong with me, but that's what I do, right? I literally binge watch every piece of information I can get on a player because I want to know everything about them, right? So I'm just looking at my notes here. So Dyson Daniels, about 6'7", 6'8", somewhere in there. I think that was the measurement on him. Really can do everything, and he's an athletic guy. For being 18 years old, he has a really good feel for placement. Defensively, being early help, he's got good bursts. He elevates well enough. He has long arms, and he's actually pretty skilled. And it'll be interesting to see what Portland does. I have heard that they are interested in him at 7 if they choose to pick. Odds are they may not, especially with the rumors of Beal possibly getting to Portland. I don't think Beal leaves Washington. I don't think that's a thing, but if it is,
I'm with you on that.
obviously 7 would go to Washington at that point, and there's a lot of scenarios that can happen out of that. They could combine them both, move to 4 in Sacramento,
Wow.
get Jaden Ivey. Like, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of
I don't
things,
think anyone's ready for that.
No, but Dyson Daniels is my riser. Now, I will say to you, I think I've said this when I'm at SBC, and we're talking about players and whatnot. The biggest fear that I have is a late riser in the draft, because it's like, why is he rising now? We have the information on him. We've had the information on him. Why was he not rising a month ago, 2 months ago? So anybody who gets really excited, especially the day before, the day or 2 days before, be wary. Be wary of those emotions. Go back on your process. Go back on what you watched when it was February 14th or March 9th or whatever that is. So Dyson Daniels, have you watched Dyson Daniels enough?
Yeah, I actually was just about to echo the Dyson Daniels love. So I have a few interesting stories. So I was fortunate enough to attend a few of the All-Star Weekend events, being from Cleveland. Got to go out. I saw him at the Rising All-Star or the Rising Stars game. And, it's All-Star Weekend. Guys are out there having fun, doing their thing, whatever. It's not the best basketball you'll watch. However, you could tell the second he stepped on that floor, he was there not to have fun, obviously, but also you could tell this man saw it as an opportunity, as a showcase to show the world, show all the NBA personnel, people in the stands in Cleveland, what he's about, and raise eyebrows. And frankly, he did exactly that with me. He was obviously on my radar before a little bit, but he left an impression on me at an all-star event. Like, I think that is pretty notable. I think he could, barring like intel and, in terms of just like the best prospect available, like I could see him going as high as 5, picking him as high as 5.
Sure.
And I would not be surprised at that, but at all, based on like the way the current board is and the way prospects are going through the process. So I definitely echo everything you said, and specifically his defense is what stands out to me. His off-ball defense, as you said, his ability to get into driving lanes, his stunting. I wasn't entirely impressed with some of the defensive philosophies and of the G League Ignite as a whole, but I felt like he was an anomaly in the way that he kind of carried himself, and it almost felt like he held himself to a different standard maybe than some of the other guys on that team. So
sure.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents on the guy. Another guy, obviously the biggest question mark of the draft, Shaedon Sharpe, his lack of tape, and every scout has to do a bit of extra homework in terms of gathering intel on him and just communicating with people around him, getting a good sense of who he is as a player and as a person. Normally it's, the job of getting to it's probably harder to, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably harder to get to know the prospect as a person, versus a player. Player, it all comes out on tape. Person is when you have to actually do your digging. But with Shaedon, you got to do both simultaneously at a high level, considering all the buzz that he's getting and the picks or the places he may end up at. So, and I guess my process with him starts at comparing him to similar players in this draft. So you think of maybe the first few guys come to mind, like Ben Mathurin, Johnny Davis. Like, do you feel like he is better than those guys? Like, that's the first question. Mm-hmm. And if your answer is yes, then you're able to, then you may feel comfortable taking a gamble on him. If your answer is no, then why take the risk when you know that you have like a bet, or in your opinion, a better prospect that's available to you, and you can feel way more confident about the decision at the end of the day because of all the game tape and going through a college system. I mean, granted, he did spend time at Kentucky, but who knows how much that truly impacted him as a player and as a person. So that's my 2 cents on Shaedon. I'm sure you probably have a similar opinion in terms of his volatility.
Well, I think that I just pulled up my notes on him. I just wanted to make sure that I covered what I worry about and what I like. Mm-hmm. I love the physical tools, but I've learned through trial and error, physical tools don't always mean that you're going to make it, right? Mm-hmm. And from what I've seen of him, I worry that I'm going to pull a name out here. Back in my Hornets days, Xavier Henry. If you guys remember Xavier Henry.
Remember the name, not as much the player.
Kansas was, I think he was picked 9, maybe 11. I can't remember off the top of my head, but late lottery, I believe. And good player, had some good stretches of games. Injuries got him, right. Kind of reminds me of him a little bit. In the sense that Xavier, when he came into the league, tried to find his place. And then once he decided to be a really aggressive and really, hey, I got to go get this, he was really good. And then he got passive for some reason after that. You know what I mean? And I worry that could be Shaedon, is that he's such a mystery. But by year 2, the league's figured him out. And now he's got to go in his bag of tricks or develop something else. And I don't know that if I'm a team, I know that he's going to keep developing, in the sense that he's going to be open-minded about, hey, oh yeah, I need to develop my floater or both hand floater. I got to think I'm Mike Conley, with that. Like Mike Conley, once he got the floater down, I mean, he dominated everybody because he could get to the paint whenever he wanted, but now he's just float, finish, finish, either hand, right, left. I'm talking Memphis and then probably first year Utah. He was just a threat. He was just automatic, right? So I got to think, I got to follow some kind of progression chart with him moving forward. And I don't know what that is because I don't know his body of work. He looks like he wants to get better. I mean, I'm sure any young player really does. Back in high school, it almost like he was just trying to get buckets. And for me, yeah. There is no team in the top 14, in my opinion, that just needs a straight bucket getter, that they don't have one on their team other than Orlando. And Orlando's not going to do that, right? Orlando's not like they're not going to pick him one. There's no way. So I worry about the progression with him. I worry about how much is he going to compete? Is he going to be on the defensive end competing? It's 7-foot wingspan at 6'4.5". That's monster. You can get into passing lanes. He looks athletic enough to do that. Like, I just don't know if that's him. And the fact that I don't know at this point would turn me off to him. And not the fact that he might be a great player, not the fact that he might turn out to be an all-star. That's fine. I also think there are guys right in that pool around him that are going to be all-stars. So I can pick from those guys that I feel I can, especially if I'm a team like New Orleans or the Knicks or Washington. There's some players in that little area right there that I think are going to be all-stars, most likely. So why not go with those guys that are most likely going to be that guy? And I can see the progression. I can go talk to, about Ochai Agbaji over at Kansas. I can just call Bill Self and say, does this guy work? You know what I mean? Or can, I can talk to somebody on staff. Is this guy a worker? Like, does he work? Like, is this the guy? Will he develop? Like, I think long-winded answer on Shaedon Sharpe because there's so much to talk about him, but that's kind of where I'm at with him. I'm not super high on him just because, honestly, he's going to have to be Kobe or somebody of that like magnitude for me not to see them. And when I still see them, I'm like, well, I got a lot of question marks.
Do you foresee, because, this time of year specifically, it's a whole between, players' agencies and the players' camp and the teams. It's a whole chess match, right?
Yeah.
Should we go send this guy out to this workout? Should we decline the workout? Combine stuff, accepting, denying, playing, not playing.
Yeah.
Based on intel you've gathered so far about him going through just like the draft process so far, take his AAU stuff, the intel you may have gathered at Kentucky, put all that aside, just like the past month and a half.
Yeah.
Do you feel like teams have been able to properly do their due diligence based on bringing him in for a workout? I mean, I don't even know off the top of my head if he's gone anywhere for workouts. And he didn't do the combine. He didn't play, at least.
He had a workout at the combine.
Yeah. So, what was it, like his agency workout or something?
Yeah, it was a
pro day.
It was the first time they did workouts at the combine this year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So, do you feel like the teams are able to properly get a good beat on him in the past month and a half?
As best as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see it. It's better to keep the kid a mystery if I'm an agent. If I'm his agent, it's the only thing I'm doing. It's kind of like it's what Cal does at Kentucky, right? You have one day. Everybody, every scout, you have one day to come watch us have practice. You get one day. I don't know if that's still the case, but it's usually how he runs. Is like, and that's pretty much what the agency did, and I think that's actually smart. If you don't know, it's better to have some mystery. So
yeah,
let's move on from him. There's not enough information. Like, there's way more information on way more exciting players, in my opinion, than him. I'm not saying he may not be an impact player. I just don't see it right now.
Yeah,
it's going to be his learning curve's like this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some of the other guys are already in that learning curve. It's going to be.
We could probably do a whole show based on him, so we don't have to. We don't have to tire ourselves out or our lovely listeners. So let's keep it moving. You have anyone else in mind, through the lottery, or you want to get into some trade talk?
Definitely want to get some trade talk. That's the fun part of this. Though there's two names that I am very surprised. I just want to put on the draft radar of everybody, and we're not going to get into them today. Maybe on the next pod. Two guys that I have no idea why more people are not talking about them, and that's Johnny Davis and O'Shea Agbaji. I don't understand why we aren't talking about these two guys as starters, key reserves moving forward. We're talking about 3-and-D guys, or possibly, just 3-point specialists or shooters. Like, these guys are players, and these guys can play. And, we'll get into them later, but I just want to put on everybody's radar. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. Maybe because they're not the sexy pick, because they are kind of who they are. But they are 100% both NBA players that could start right now in the NBA. They would be. I guarantee you, O'Shea Agbaji by midseason will be a starter on whatever team he's on. I'll say it right now.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, and
it's the Miles Bridges thing, right? Minus the defense.
Yeah, that's quite the stipulation. But
but that's what it was.
Yeah.
Remember, Miles Bridges wasn't the best defender ever. He wasn't Herb Jones. You know what I mean? He wasn't.
Yeah.
He's developed it. He's developed it. He prides himself on it. I don't see why either of those. Well, Johnny's not as athletic as Miles, but O'Shea is very athletic. I think he's, I don't think he has bought into playing defense as much as he could. But I'll tell you what, that guy picks up defense. That's the one thing you can teach and take pride in is defense. You can't teach guys to jump higher. Like, maybe, you know what I mean? You guys, but for the most part, you can't. You can't go outside of you can make them stronger, maybe more durable, more agile to an extent, but. Let's talk trades. I could be on that. I could be on this all day, Oliver. I love this stuff.
Yeah. So we have, I guess, obviously, OKC is always going to be in the mix, given just the sheer quantity of picks that they have on a given year. They've got 2 and 12 this year. So I can say for 12 at least.
I think they have 32. They also have 30.
Yeah, 30
that
and
counts.
32.
They have 30 and 34.
30 and 34. There you go. So the last pick of the first round, that guaranteed money. And then, those early second round picks also tend to get some guaranteed money as well that ends up getting negotiated in. But for that number 12 pick, I could see that pick, them trading that pick, particularly to a team outside of the lottery looking to get their way in.
Yeah.
Maybe for a contender who's in like the late first to kind of make that jump. A team that kind of stood out to me was Dallas. Like, what if if Johnny Davis is at 12, Johnny could, end up being, the Robin to Luka, and take a load off of him, and he could excel as an off-ball scorer, and that could look something like Josh Green plus Dallas's pick in the late first round for 12. I think that you could
Josh Green.
Yeah,
12.
that's what I meant. Yeah. So you could I imagine they'll want to get a young player who's maybe stuck, who's maybe jammed in the depth chart, who is not getting opportunities on a contender. Josh Green was like one of the first guys that came to mind. And OKC could also look back into their draft notes from previous years, guys that they liked that, didn't fall to them. So that was like the first one that kind of came to my mind. Interested to see if you had anything interesting brewing for those OKC picks.
Yeah, OKC is always the wild card because they always have the most picks, right? So yeah. I want to touch on each one of these picks just quickly and kind of like the thought process for me, based upon my experience with OKC and kind of how they've been operating in the past. So 2, to me, I think they just take it. They take the guy. That's what they're here for, right? Anything in the top 5, that's what really they're here for. So you take whoever you want it to. We'll say it's Chet, just for the sake of this argument, right? So now, or we'll just say either Jabari or Chet. So you get a big, right? Or if you take Banchero, for them he'd be a big. He would be quote unquote a big. But you know how things.
You're taking size.
Yeah. You're taking a guy with some size, right? You're not taking a point guard with this. Let's put it that way. Or a small playmaker or something like that. So at 12, you start thinking about where do I go from there? Oh, I want to touch on 2. Sorry, one more thing. A really sneaky thing that OKC could do, if they have intel on Houston or Sacramento, that either one of those teams want to bump up to 2 because they think maybe Sacramento thinks Chet is their guy and they're going to go all in on Chet, or maybe Chet gets picked 1 by Orlando, and they're going, oh my God, we can get Jabari Smith on Sacramento. We have to do this. And that's a Sac move. That's something Sacramento has done in the past, obviously different regimes, but that is a constant under Vivek, right? What you could see there is maybe Oklahoma City flopping to 3 or 4, picking up a first for next year, maybe top 10 protected, top 8 protected, somewhere in there. Now they're creating more assets for themselves while still getting a top 3 player, or a top 4 player. The problem is after the top 3, there's a line under that top 3. So if it's Houston, you would think that Houston, maybe it's Sac who put something together for Houston, and then they find a deal for OKC to move up. That's a lot of capital, but very interesting. That's like so interesting to me. I think OKC just takes the pick. They take who they're going to take. That's why they're here. But just put that in the back of your mind. 12 is very interesting because if for some reason OKC feels they need to get number 1 and that's their guy, which that is not their style, they can package 1 or 2 and 12 to get to 1 easy. They can get up to Orlando at 1, and if I'm Orlando, I take that running. I say thanks a lot, move on. Whoever they don't take, fine, don't care. We're going to take the next guy. That's not going to happen, but that's a possibility. I do like that you talked about Dallas because they need talent. They have Luka, and now they're probably going to re-sign Jalen Brunson, which is great for them. I would think they need a little more size. I like Jeremy Sochan for him. I think Jeremy Sochan's like a really good fit for them. So but I want to talk about OKC here. 12, it depends on where I'm at, right, and where the draft is going. If for some reason, if there's a guy at 12, there's a guy that drops, right? Michael Porter dropped to 13, was it 11 or 13? I can't remember.
I think it was 13 or 14, maybe.
Right. Injuries, but super talented dude, right?
Yeah.
I think OKC needs to look at it as who in our, as the guys are coming off the board, who's sitting there? Is there a guy who dropped? Is there, for some reason, did AJ Griffin drop, or Ben Mathurin, or Johnny Davis, or O'Shea Agbaji? Like, did any of these guys drop? Because if they did, there's a lot of value at that pick. Now, if I'm OKC, honestly, and there's a shooter there, if there's Agbaji, Johnny Davis, Dyson Daniels, any of those three guys that are there, for me, I'm taking one of them, because that's a perfect compliment to Shea and probably Chet or Jabari, whoever they get. Great compliment. You get a shooter, somebody that can spread the floor. I think it's a low-cost contract, right? It's another low-cost player. And if you ship off Shea at some point, or if it's this draft, maybe it's Shea in 12 for a player, or Shea in 12 for something. I don't find that
better be a damn good player.
That's what I'm saying, though. Think about that. If you have Chet and you have Josh Giddey, and you ship Shea and you ship a pick and you get a big. What if you get Bradley Beal back? Do you take that? That's what I'm saying. What if it's Donovan Mitchell? You see what I mean? Like those are the names that are out there right now. If in hypothetical scenario, I'm Utah. I'm saying, you know what? It's over. I'm going to try to get we lost our head coach. Gobert will probably have to ship somewhere. Probably Donovan wants out now. Maybe they had to say, okay, it's time to hit the reset button. What better way to hit the reset button than 12, a future first from OKC and Shea? Or is it just the 12th pick and Shea for Brad Beal or, Donovan Mitchell, or, obviously you have to balance it. You would probably, most likely off the top of my head here, it would probably be Shea 12, next year's pick of theirs, top 3 protected, probably. So that's where I would be with OKC. And then otherwise honestly at 30 and 34, I actually think they sell the pick. They probably sell 30 unless they find a player they really, really want. I think they sell the pick at 30 for cash because, again, small market team, they're going to want cash in. Owners like cash. You got to give the owners something, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what the past picks are at 30 off the top of my head, how much they cost, but a team like New York may want to buy in. Miami may want to buy in. Dallas may want to buy in. They may want to buy back into the first round. So I would look for 30 or 34 to be sold to somebody rather than traded, unless they get a really good, unless they get top 20 protected first round for the 30 and the 34th pick. Obviously, you take that for next year or the year after.
Yeah, I mean, those later picks, tend to get, you're getting nickel on the dollar for those, so you might as well just sell them and bring some cash in, make the owners happy, and
it might be LA.
I'm with you.
It might be the Lakers. It might be the Lakers at 30. They want to get back into the first round. They don't have anything. I mean, they have literally nothing.
Yeah, I mean, with the way Austin Reeves, I think, had his success, I think it's a sign that that LA definitely needs to get younger. So
they need cheap help.
Yeah, exactly. Cheap help and guys, not from guys on veteran minimums, guys who are on rookie scales.
Guys you control. Guys you can control for more than a year. That's the key for them is, how great would it have been for them to, find somebody like Jose Alvarado and then have that contract of Alvarado's. That contract is so team friendly, beyond team friendly, but that's what you get at 30 obviously is slotted, and then 34 will go off, whatever the past pick has been for over the last 3-4 years, whatever the average is, or, what maybe off last year off with inflation, but they're in a great spot.
Yeah. Let's switch over to the two other teams we had marked down, Sacramento and Portland. Sacramento at 4, Portland at 7. I actually think they're in very similar situations where they they need to start thinking about players to get them over the hump. Specifically Portland, obviously, they're talking about a retool instead of a rebuild. So retooling means you need to go out and get guys to pair with Dame. So if CJ's gone, like I think Jeremy Grant is a player that both teams should be targeting to like help get them over the hump. They can offer similar packages in terms of this pick plus veteran salary to match Jeremy Grant that isn't necessarily contributing or helping them to reach their goals of making the playoffs.
This is Portland.
In Portland's place, I think both Sacramento and Portland. I mean, Portland has like a higher ceiling or higher expectations in the sense where if you have Damian Lillard, like you really shouldn't be missing the playoffs. Like you shouldn't be missing the play-in. So whereas I think Sacramento, like obviously the play-in is like very clearly like that's their goal. So granted, their goals may be slightly different, but regardless, they need impact players like yesterday to get them over that hump. And Jeremy Grant's like the first guy that comes to mind. So putting something together with Detroit, who's in their youth renaissance, would be a great trade partner for them. But curious what you have to add.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nose. Jeremy Grant will be an asset to a contending team or a team in this grouping that he's worth a first-round pick, I think. I think his production is well enough. Now, is it this high of a pick? I don't think so. I think Detroit's going to have to put something else on it, whether that is, two future seconds or, something maybe top something that they won't give up in the first round and it'll parlay to 2 seconds later. Something, top 20 protected, top 22, 23, 25 protected, something like that. So he's a really good asset. And people, it's too obvious to me that he goes to Portland. It's too obvious. Too easy. It's too obvious. So that puts my antennae up that like, whoa, I don't know that's the greatest place for that. Now, that being said, is there a way for Portland to get Donovan Mitchell, Bradley Beal? I don't know. I don't think Beal's leaving. As I said earlier, I don't think he's leaving Washington. But this Donovan Mitchell situation could get frothy real quick. It could be a really quick thing.
That'd be a weird pairing. I'm not sure if I
think you do it anyways. You're gonna lose Dame anyways if you don't. And if that's your bullet, you go do it. I'm sorry, you make it work. They're professional. They're professionals. And if Donovan doesn't respect Dame, there's something wrong with Donovan at that point, and the whole league will know it because Dame is, when he's healthy, he's top 10, is he not? Like he's a top 10 player in the league when he's healthy. Yeah. So
can't really debate that.
If Donovan can't figure it out and try to work with that, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But the thing about Donovan Mitchell, I keep saying his name because of all the stuff that's going on, but he has 3 years left on his contract from what I remember, right? It's 3 years plus that option before he gets his option. So if I'm Dame, I'm good. I got Donovan Mitchell on my team. It's me and him for the next 3 years at least. We can probably do something there, right? And that's where I think Portland comes in at 7. This pick at 7 is good ammunition for them, especially if the Jazz decide to do it. If Danny Ainge says, hey, you know what? Let's just retool this. I got a couple ideas. We can really boost our draft stock and our draft equity over the next few years. Portland could give him 7 and then swap next year. Give him a first pick, top 3 protected the next year, swap the next year, top 3 protected the next year too, because then you're looking at 5 years out, right? But you're ultimately giving up a lot of picks but Donovan Mitchell's a top 15 player, right? In the league, when maybe top 20, top 15, somewhere in there. So it's worth to roll the dice there. Super interesting position for Sacramento. I have Jaden Ivey slotted at 4 to Sacramento. I think it actually would work pretty well with De'Aaron and those guys because like Jaden Ivey is Russell Westbrook, like he's got that Russell Westbrook burst, right to the rim, reckless at the rim, but he doesn't have the strength Russ did. So I was actually looking, I forget who I was watching, but they actually compared him to Ja Morant a little bit, and I was like, that's actually a pretty good comparison. The problem with Jaden is he's not as smart as Ja. Ja is crafty, and he understands when to push, when to not. when to get in those screen and rolls, when to get to the rim, when to take punishment. A lot of people say he takes too much punishment, but he just sees the seam. So when he sees the seam, he's going to it. You know what I mean? He sees the seam before us. So it'll be interesting to see here at 4, right? I don't like anybody at 4 for Sacramento here. I've come to the resolution of I don't like anybody. If he was one of the top 3 guys, 1,000,000%. Yes. The problem is you got Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, Ben Mathurin. At least I do. They all play the same position as their 2 best players. Like they play the same position. So that's why I think Jaden could play with them because Jaden can shoot it well enough, right? But if I'm Sacramento, I'm trying to trade get out of this thing. Like get assets for next year or this year. If you want to go this year, that's fine. Portland at 7, if they feel like they need to move up for some reason. New Orleans feels like Jaden Ivey is their guy, or maybe it's Ben Mathurin, and they think Detroit's going to take Ben Mathurin at 5. Like New Orleans has a treasure trove of draft picks, and they don't have in the future, and they don't have the roster spots to keep up, right? So, at what point are you going? We can get a guy here. We give the Lakers pick in 3 years or whatever, or give them swap rights and we put protection on top of the protection, and we go for it and we take Jaden Ivey and we say, hey, we think that Ingram, Ivey, or maybe it's Ben Mathurin. I'm just making it up. I don't think it's a great trade. I'm just saying, like, what about New York? New York is a sleepy candidate here if they want to give up RJ Barrett, right? If they want to give up somebody to get in this top 4 to get a superstar, maybe it's not RJ Barrett. Maybe it's maybe it's someone else that they have.
Yeah, I think Knicks fans would burn the garden down if RJ Barrett was involved in any of this.
I think the Knicks, if they are focused and they have a goal in mind, why would you not go after 4 here? You keep losing in the lottery every year. You're the 8 to 12 almost every single year except 1 year, I think, 1920, or was it 2021? Can't remember off the top of my head. That's where you are. That's who you are. So we need to take a shot here. We got some good young talent. If I don't have to give up RJ, that's even better. But I think if Sacramento is really, really serious, they should trade up. They should try to get that OKC at 2. Orlando is not trading their pick unless you bet the farm. You turn into a Ricky Williams in New Orleans Saints type of thing with Mike Ditka back in 2000s, where they gave every pick of that draft and like 2 picks the next year for Ricky Williams. Unless that happens, Orlando's not moving. I wouldn't if I was Orlando. I already got the number 1 pick. At 2, OKC can be. If I'm OKC, I'm looking at it as, whoa, if Sacramento's going to give me a treasure trove, why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not? But if I'm Sacramento, I am aggressively moving in or out of this position. I don't like Ivey, Murray, Mathurin. Dyson Daniels is okay, but do I want to take Dyson Daniels at 4? Yeah. And then if I don't take Jaden Ivey and he goes to Detroit with the next pick and he turns out to be an all-star and him and Cade Cunningham are all-stars for the next 10 years, I'm fried.
Yeah. No, I'm completely on board with you. I think they need to be aggressive, like assessing all their options on the trade market. Ivey just really doesn't feel right to me. Like my biggest issue with him is like, people love his burst, like as you said. My problem is I really feel like he only has like 2 gears. It's like
fast and slow.
Exactly. Like, yep. Where Ja's got that middle gear, there are some of the best like NBA guards who like pride themselves on their ability to get to the cup. They're able to hold guys on their back, like, put them in jail, things like that. And, I don't know how much I see of that at him with like his strength and just his ability to like start and stop and slow down, most importantly. So it really just feels like it just feels like a waste of an asset almost. So yeah, I'm completely on board with assessing all your options on the trade market. Ben Mathurin, I mean, I think it's a reach in terms of like his talent, but I mean, if you could move back and pick Ben Mathurin, I think that
why wouldn't you pick up an asset from Indiana?
Yeah. pick up Ben. Like, I think he fits way better among the guys you've mentioned. His off-ball scoring, I think, would be huge for them. They've got what, Harrison Barnes doing a lot of that stuff. Like, imagine a young, athletic Ben Mathurin taking up a lot of those Harrison Barnes minutes. Like, that sounds great to me.
And with Dwayne Wade's skills.
Yeah.
And we'll get into more of this across the. I think it's time to almost wrap it up, but we could be here like I said, we could be here all day. But this is why we're doing this once a week, because we got too much stuff going on in this draft to not be committed time to it. And if you've listened this far, thank you so much. It really means a lot to both of us.
Yeah, our inaugural scouting draft pod. This was really great, and we've got a ton more to cover. Like, we really just scratched the surface here. Like, Dan and myself, like, we've been watching a lot of film on a lot of these prospects, and there's a long list of guys that we have yet to touch on. So please stay tuned. Please tap into all of our scouting content we have coming in. Like, I'm very interested to see people's reaction to our big board that we'll have drop in soon. Myself, Dan,
the end of the week, Friday,
and our other colleague Max on the scouting side. We kind of put our heads together, come up with a consensus, and
we'll definitely have Max on, by the way, just so anybody.
Yes,
we are definitely going to have Max on. Hopefully next week he can join us. That'd be a great insight from Max as well.
And so, that's about it from us. I want to take the last minute or so to, obviously plug Sports Business Classroom, as Dan mentioned at the beginning of the pod. Sports Business Classroom did a lot for me in the trajectory of my basketball career. Dan and I simply wouldn't be on this podcast today if it weren't for SBC. They've opened up so many doors, whether it be on the team side, the media side, and just giving me an opportunity a platform to learn so much about the league and, how to make your way in and where to start, how to improve yourself, year to year as you go into the NBA hiring cycle. So they have the immersive experience at Summer League this year. You can check out more information at sportsbusinessclassroom.com. If you have any questions about the program, I was involved in the immersive program last year. I've also done some virtual stuff with SBC, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My Twitter, you can shoot me DM, OLA_hoops. And it's all over our No Trade Clause website as well, our social media content. So you really can't miss it. But yeah, like I said, shoot me a follow on Twitter. Check out all the No Trade Clause stuff on social. Dan, where can the good people find you at?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at IM_Dan P. I believe it's DPREWM on Instagram. I have a ton of small clippets that are coming out. I've been working on them for about 2 weeks now. I'm trying to make sure that all my P's and Q's, so I can put it all out not at once, but in a good order. Tons of stuff on the top three. Also, we'll get into guys like, Wendell Moore and Kennedy Chandler, and as we go down. But the big stuff is going to be Jabari, Chet, Paolo to start. Then we'll start going down into tiers. It's going to be great. Free for everybody. You don't have to be a part of my website which I don't mind, whatever you guys need to do. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you having me on, Oliver. This is going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, please, at SBC, sportsbusinessclassroom.com, please check it out. It is, we have guests lined up from Adam Silver. I think Adam Silver. I don't know if it's been announced.
Yeah, he's been in.
Yeah, Tommy Shepard, Mark Cuban. Tommy Shepard does such a good job teaching when he's there. And there's actually an alum from Sports Business Classroom who is now the GM of the Go-Go. So it's just, there's so many opportunities. It's worth every bit of someone's time.
Most definitely. And we got a ton of stuff, like I said, in the pipeline. So be sure to tap in. So that'll be it from us for now. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back again next week.
My name is Larry Kuhn, and I'm the General Manager and Lead Instructor of Sports Business Classroom. I'm inviting you to participate in a unique opportunity to break into basketball. Sports Business Classroom is immersed in the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas, Nevada. And when I say immersed, I mean we're right there in the arena, bringing NBA movers and shakers into our classroom and putting you right into the Summer League action. Sports Business Classroom is the best of all worlds. Great academics, challenging assignments, hands-on work at Summer League, and the chance to start building your network of league connections. It's an experience you can get nowhere else. Have you ever dreamed of working in NBA basketball? Don't just wish it will happen, make it happen. Space is limited, so jumpstart your career today by visiting sportsbusinessclassroom.com.